Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Ross and I'm here to talk about what I read. And for today's video, since my first one was just put up, that was the best books I read in 2020. Again, I'm late to the party with this video, being the end of February, but that's okay. I thought I would get into the top 10 worst books that I read in 2020. I'm not going to do honorable mentions today since this is kind of like a negativity video. I don't want to dwell on too many books, but I do think it's important to point out part of your reading experiences is things you enjoy and things you don't enjoy. So talking about things you don't enjoy feels just as valid to me. I do want to point out that 2020 wasn't that bad of a reading year for me, and I don't tend to give out too many really low ratings. I've never given a one-star book to any book because in my mind, if a book is 1 star, I'd probably just DNF it. I don't think I would honestly finish it. So the lowest I have on this list is a 2-star. They're not even perfectly in order of like how I rated them because sometimes things just like sit in your mind for a while after you read them and then you're like, actually I think that that's probably lower because the fact that you're dwelling on it means that it was worse than you initially thought. So there are a few books that like that on this where I initially gave them like a 3 and then over time I've just been like, no, I'm not remembering that fondly at all. No. We'll start with number 10, which was not that bad of a book for me. Like, I thought it was enjoyable, but there are problems in it, and those problems should be addressed. And that is The Bat by, I believe it's Joe Nesba. This is the first book in the Harry Hula series, although most people would probably just say Harry Hole because it's hilarious and it's a running joke in the book. I went into this knowing full well that most Harry Hula fans say that this is the worst one by far. But I'm not someone who can just like, unless it's like an Agatha Christie series, I can't just like start in the middle. And I feel like this is one where I don't know. I feel like I've heard some people say you can skip like the first two, but then I've heard some people say like you should read them all for like context. So I thought I'd just start with this one. I've heard the second one also isn't that great and then they get better. So I'm honestly interested to continue because I enjoyed the character and I enjoyed like his detective style. It was just the choices in this. This book follows Harry Hula, who is a Norwegian detective, and he is on site in Sydney because a Norwegian national who was living in Sydney was murdered, and so the Norwegian police force sends him down to Sydney to see if he can help assist in the investigation. And there's a lot of issues in this book, I thought, regarding portrayals of Aboriginal people. They're a big component of the book, but kind of in a bad way, and also gay people. But there's a lot of issues where like the Aboriginal people in this book are all just depicted as like drunks or ashamed of their heritage, and it was kind of just like, ooh. And I thought like maybe he'd bring commentary, flip it around, like maybe portray it that way as like what the white people see, but then no, it was kind of just that. It was just all of the Aboriginal people were drunks, drug addicts, or were trying to like hide their identities. So I didn't think that that was good. And then it was the same with gays. Like there was a whole subplot about like gay culture, and the gay men were also like predatory and creepy, and that was like it wasn't great. It is an older. I mean, I'm not gonna give it too much slack because it's not like it's that old. It's from 1997, so I'm interested to continue because people say it gets better and that he's become a better writer, but that one was a little icky. And then number 9, this one is probably a book no one's really ever heard of. I don't think it has very many reads and good reads. My partner picked it up because he just thought the cover and concept was cute, and then I read it one day because it's super short, and that is The Guest Cat by Takashi Hiraide. And this is like a little. I think Takashi Hiraide is typically a poet, but it's not written in prose, but it is or verse, but it's very beautiful writing, and I enjoyed the writing, but I didn't like this because it's just about a guest cat. It's about like an outdoor cat that this family, this married couple, like helps take care of, and I didn't like it because the people in it they gave me such a bad vibe. They just felt like they thought that they were like the hottest shit because they like fed an outdoor cat. I'm that just puts them above everyone. Like they're like we take care of this cat, and the cat belongs to like their neighbors, and they get like kind of like I feel like they like subtly got weirdly possessive of it. Like they didn't like when the cat was like with its actual owner. And I'm like, you people are icky. You people are icky. I'm not really sure what gives you like the idea that like this cat is yours because you like left a bowl of tuna outside for it. So beautiful writing, beautiful cover. I like reading novels from various cultures. This is obviously a translated work from Japanese, um, but it just like the story didn't do it. It I don't mind like a lack of story. I just thought that the people were like no, they were they were not for me. And then number 8 is pretty much on this list just because of its forgettability. That is Murder in the Mill Race by E.C.R. Larac. I believe E.C.R. Larac is a classic of Golden Age detective, although this is a little later. I think this is the 50s. Um, and I honestly don't remember anything about this, and I remember feeling like that the moment I finished it. I was like, all right, I already forgot everything. I picked this up totally on a whim because I'm interested in this series of books. I'm not sure exactly. Poison Pen. It's the Poison Pen series, and they just highlight like a whole bunch of different like golden age detective stories that are like have fallen out of print. So they kind of highlight like they don't do Agatha Christie or anything. I don't think it's mostly like authors that you may not have heard of, and they just try to highlight some lost gems. There's a lot of books in the series, so I went to my local bookstore a while ago and was just perusing through like these and was like, which one sounds the coolest? So I'll just pick up like one or two. And I read this one, and as I was reading it, I'm just like, this, I don't remember anything. Like, I can't, as I'm reading, I'm like, I cannot remember the detective's name. I can't remember, like, the suspects' names. I believe that this has to do with, like, the woman who runs an orphanage is murdered, and she's, like, a hard ass, and everyone in town hates her, so it's kind of like an everybody has a motive kind of story. So these detectives show up, and they're just like, who killed the stuffy old woman who ran the orphanage poorly? And that's all I remember. I don't remember who did it. I don't remember anything about anything. I just know it was about an orphanage. Now we're gonna. There are a couple what I think might be controversial choices on this list. Maybe they're not controversial. I don't know. I feel like one or two definitely are. This is like a possible one, but my number 7 choice is going to be The Institute by Stephen King. This is like one of his newer novels. I'm sure most people have probably seen it by now. If you have not seen it, I think this is from 2019. And this book kind of like personified the aspects of Stephen King that I don't like. As I mentioned in my best books of 2020, there are things about Stephen King that I really enjoy, but overall I disliked or just felt meh about more than half of the books of his that I've read. And this one kind of personified everything that I tend to dislike about them. Because one of my biggest pet peeves with Stephen King that was super prevalent in this is that I don't think he can write children, at least not anymore. He is, from reading this, this whole book follows like 12-year-olds in 2019 or it's sometime similar to 2019. And they read like they're from the 50s, these children, and it's just like it's like he hasn't come into contact with a child since he was a child. And I'm just like, these kids don't make any sense. Like the way they're written, it just doesn't make any sense to me that kids would behave this way. So it really held it back because that's the whole point. If you don't know, the plot of the book is that there's like children who have like psychic abilities, and they're like kidnapped by an organization and then like farmed for their psychic abilities. So this follows like one kid, and then his like small group of friends who are trapped with him as they try to like take down the Institute. And it's a fun premise, but it's just like you can't make a whole book with every POV character as a child, and then these children read like they're like 65 reminiscing on their past. It just didn't work. It didn't work for me. And it just didn't have enough action. The pacing was off for me too, so I just felt like it didn't all come together very well. And then number 6, I'm sad that this was on this list. This was a recommendation I got from Jean Bookish Thoughts' channel, and she loves this book and she loves this author, and she's one of my favorite booktubers. So I picked this one up to try. I'd seen her books before, and I had wanted to give one a shot, so I just decided to go with this one because Jean had talked about it the most prominently, and that is White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi. Now, I wouldn't say like I regret reading this by any means. It was an interesting book, and I'm glad to have tried Helen Oyeyemi, and it wasn't long, so it wasn't that much of a commitment. But the story just didn't go where I wanted it to go. It didn't really go anywhere, and that was the whole problem. It's like I like and I understand books, like wanting to have a book where things aren't just all answered for you. Like there's a little bit of speculation, and it's just like, ooh, what does that mean? Oh, what does that mean? But I thought that this one didn't answer anything. Like even a like there wasn't even a scrap. I thought by like the end of like, okay, so what was any of this about? I was just like, this was I don't even know how to talk about it because it was just so confusing, and I just felt like nothing was wrapped up, and I really wanted something to be wrapped up by then. There were these really cool chapters where the house that the main character is living in was the POV, and it's like an evil entity, and you were like seeing it from its perspective, and those were so cool. But then of course it's just like there were only like 2 or maybe 3 of those, and then the rest of the time you're with Miranda. Miranda is the main character, and you're just following Miranda in her day-to-day life, and the whole concept is that she's from like a line of, I don't know if they're like actually witches, they're just like women who have like magical sensitivities to things, like they can just like feel energies kind of deal. And that like I can't even explain the plot. There is no plot really. You're just following this girl. I think her mom died, and she's now this you're following her after her mom's death, and she's just like a weirdo, and that's like the whole book. And it's just like, okay, it didn't do it for me. It didn't do it for me. I'm glad to have tried her, and I'm honestly open to trying another, just with like a different plot. Like I'm not sure. I probably wouldn't like rush out to read another Helen Oyeyemi, but if I could get another one with a nice cover that is like used or something for a reasonable price, I would probably give her another try just to see if it's just this one or if it's just her in general. But this one didn't do it for me. Okay, now I know this one is going to be a somewhat controversial choice because I know people love this book and love this author. This is the only book I've read by this author, so I don't want to get too. I'm not gonna rag on it too hard because it honestly wasn't that bad. It just did not work for me, and it kind of like the reason this is so low is because I feel like this opened my eyes to not liking thrillers. Like I'd been toying with the idea of like maybe you don't really like modern thrillers all that much, and then this one I was like I feel like this solidifies it because everyone likes this book, and I just can't bring myself to like it. So maybe it's kind of the genre and the genre tropes, and that is The Death of Mrs Westaway by Ruth Ware. I picked this up on so many Booktubers recommendations. I know it's a lot of people's favorite Ruth Ware, and honestly, it just didn't do anything for me. My biggest issue, which like took me out of it, was like the setup, because the whole point of this book is the main character is being chased by like a loan shark, and I'm like, a loan shark in like 2017? I mean, there's probably loan sharks out there, like still today. I'm sure there are, but I feel like they don't operate like they did in like the 30s, and that's exactly how they operate in this book. And so I'm like, why is there like this weird like 1930s mafia like vibe through this like 2017? And I'm like, it just didn't make any sense. It felt like she like wanted to write a book that's like, oh, I want to write a modern thriller, but I really want to like harken back to classic golden age detective. And her solution to that was to just like insert a 1930s plot into a 2017 book, and it's just like that doesn't work anymore. I don't think you need to connect it. You can take the loan shark idea, but you need to make it feel like it's 2017. The bad guy felt very dated, and I was just like, weird. Okay, so this is the whole setup. She's scared of a loan shark. All right, I guess. And then it just continued because with like because the main character, I just did not like her at all. She was all tell and no show. Like all she'd do is say like, oh, I'm actually really strong, and I'm just pretending to be meek so that I can like fit in and get my way. And I'm like, but you haven't done anything to show me that you're strong. You're just telling me that over and over. But then every time you're put in a position where you have to like make a decision, you're like a baby about it. So it's like, what is the truth, sweetie? What is the truth? I felt like I didn't like this for the same reason that I don't like a lot of thrillers, which is just like they feel very, I don't know, stale, and they're trying to twist you just for the sake of twists. And I don't know, I tend to just prefer like a nice classic mystery. There's nothing wrong with thrillers, and I can see their appeal, but I just feel like I always find myself nitpicking them, and it's like, why am I going to keep reading them if that's all I can do while I'm reading them is think like, no, I don't like that, no, I don't like that, and no, I don't like that. But if I set all that aside, then maybe I'll like no. I'm probably just going to give modern thrillers like a pause. I have like one or two left on my. This is my TBR shelf, so this is all books that I have not read. You can see there's like The Whisper Man is down there, and I started and tried to. This is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I read the first 20 pages of that and wanted to die, so I will probably end up just getting rid of that. I wouldn't even call that a DNF because I gave it so little attempt. I literally just like read the first couple pages and was like, these people are insufferable. I cannot. Now I feel like this is a truly controversial choice, and this is probably like a bad take. This is a bad take on my opinion. I must be missing something to put this as number 4 on my worst books of 2020. But it just like it was not fun for me to read at all, like even a little. And that is A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This is one of the few like novella. I think this is the first Sherlock Holmes, and this is like a novella one. It's not a short story, although it should have been. And this was just a like this is written. This is the weirdest story structure I have ever read in a book. And I've pointed out the part that I hate to so many people, and everyone's like, I don't even remember that part. I'm like, you blocked it out because it's so bad. So I don't even remember like the mystery. I think it's a pretty standard mystery. Like it's just like somebody is murdered, and Sherlock Holmes is on the scene. But like you're reading like 100 pages or so, probably even less than that, maybe like 70 pages. It's like, okay, there's Sherlock Holmes and Watson, and they're doing their thing, and it's fine. It's a simple mystery because it's like a pioneer of the mystery genre. So I was like, that's fine. And then you all of a sudden get to like this point in the book, and it is so long, where you're following like the people who founded Salt Lake City, like the Mormon caravan that like traveled across the country and found. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And why is this like half the book? It was so long. It was so much backstory. Like that could have been like 10 pages maybe to give like the bad guy like a backstory. But it was like half the book is like you in Utah finding out about like this dude, and it's just like what? And that is not what I signed up for with Sherlock Holmes. I did not want to read about the founding of the state of Utah by the Mormon Church and like critiques on the Mormon Church and their faith. I didn't care. That was not what I went into this book for. And I have pointed this out to like 4 people who have also read this, and they're like, I don't even remember the part in Utah. And I'm like, yeah, because you blocked it out because it was so bad and so like out of left field. I was just like, no, that did not work for me. So I am absolutely interested in reading more Sherlock Holmes, probably just short stories. That was just the bizarrest reading experience I have ever had, and it's honestly shocking to me that nobody else remembers it. Am I reading like a weird version where like it was like lengthened or something, like an unedited version? I don't know. I don't think so. It doesn't say anything about that. So I think people just really block it out. It's fascinating to me. And the number 3, unfortunately, is going to have to go to my queen, Agatha Christie. This is probably the worst Agatha Christie I've read. I'm sure there are worse ones because I have intentionally avoided quite a few ones that are like known for being bad. But this one was just a huge letdown, and that is the Sittaford mystery. And I had similar problems to Study in Scarlet, and just like it not delivering what you expect at all. Like it just was not. You read the blurb on the back and you're like, wow, that sounds really cool. And then you like started the book and it's like, that is not the blurb on the back. Like, why is that even the blurb? Because the entire setup for this is like, oh, they're snowed into a house and they're trying to perform a seance and then people die. That sounds amazing. That is not even a little bit what the book is about. The book is literally about a dude who dies like miles away while the seance is happening, and then they're not even snowed in because somebody leaves. And I just didn't like it at all because the murderer I thought was very clear from the beginning, and I am not someone who can guess Christie's very well. Even though I've read so many, am like, I'm just not good at like guessing who she picks. And I don't try too hard because I like to be surprised. But in this one, I was like, oh well, it's got to be this person. Like, it has to be them. And then it was, and I was like, oh, okay. And I could have lived with that if the rest of the story was interesting or like was what it had said it was on the back. Like if it was about people snowed into a house performing a seance and then dropping dead, I would have been like enthralled. But the fact that this was just like somebody died like 10 miles away and then it's just like a regular mystery. This is another standalone. This is not part of a series, and you're following another like kind of in my last video, just the same kind of character as like the man in the brown suit, just like a spunky young woman, but she's got a different backstory than Anne Bedingfeld, and it's just like she's fun, and she was the best part of the book, but like the mystery was lame because I could tell who did it the whole time. You get to the end, and they accuse the person who did it, and they don't even defend themselves. They literally do not get a single line after they're accused. They are just carted away, and it's just like, is that what happened? I feel like they'd say something, so that bothered me. Yeah, just not a very good. This one and A Murder on the Links, which I won't talk about in this video because I did not read that in 2020, but those two are the bottom of the barrel for me so far, and for like totally different reasons. I really want to talk about Murder on the Links in a different video because that one drives me bonkers as well. And now number 2, this is a book that I gave 3 stars when I read it, and then over time I have downgraded it twice because I cannot stop thinking about how much I disliked it and like the characters. And this is probably another controversial choice because I know a lot of people like this. And that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I did not like this at all. I'm not sure why I gave it 3 stars when I rated it the first time, because I felt like it was just like, when I was done with it, I was like, well, that was just passable. But then over time, I'm like, you know what? No, it's not passable. It's not that good. It was bad. I just thought that the main characters, Patroclus and, is that how you say that? Patroclus and Achilles, their like dynamic and their romance was like the stalest thing I had ever read. There was like no depth between them. There was like it was just so surface level, and I just could not get past how dry and boring and stale they were. Like some of the, and then my problem, I think why I gave this 3 stars is because I was like, well, there are some cool parts because like they go to this place and do this thing. And so, but then after I realized, I rated it 3 stars, and I'm like, that's not even her story though. Like the cool parts are just the part of the myth that, you know, like she's writing this based on the myth. So like the parts that I thought were cool were already in the myth. It wasn't the parts that Madeline Miller had added. Everything that she added I disliked. So I mean, I'm not trying to rag on her. I think that a lot of times like male romances written by women are written for women, and the romance in this as a gay man just did not connect for me. I did not root for them. I did not think that it was charming or cute. I just thought that they were 2 boring ass teenagers who had like almost nothing in common but still just liked each other because the story said they had to like each other. And yeah, so I'm still interested. I've heard a lot of people say if you don't like Song of Achilles, you'll like Circe, and vice versa. If you like Circe, you won't like. So I'm like, maybe I should read Circe and see if that like holds true, or if I just don't like her writing. But now we get to my number 1 least favorite book that I read in 2020, and this is another male. I wouldn't call it a romance. It's just like a male contemporary. I picked it up because mostly because the cover is stunning, and I'm keeping the book only because the cover is so pretty. Some of these books are like in a pile to be donated, but I just haven't gone yet because of pandemic. But I am keeping this one for now because I just think the cover is so beautiful. I saw it in the bookstore, and then I read the concept, and I was like, oh, that sounds nice. Like a nice. I don't read a lot of contemporary, so I'll read a nice contemporary about gays and see how it goes. And it sucked ass. And that is Tin Man by Sarah Winman. This is the fucking prettiest book cover. I swear. It is like, I don't know if you can tell, it's like gold foiled like waves over this painting, and it is just like I gotta look at this book cover. It is so pretty. Um, it is, but the book was just ass. It was ass to me. I don't even want to hold it up. I don't even want to hold it up. I didn't like it that much. The book is about this man in present day who's dealing with depression and like reflecting on his life. His wife has passed away, and his best friend has passed away, and so he's kind of just alone. And you're bouncing back and forth between present day and the 80s, and this whirlwind romance that he had with his childhood best friend in the 80s. And I just thought that the characters were just so they were just extremely like one-dimensional, flat portrayals of like gay stereotypes. And it just bothered me to high heaven. I don't want like one of the things that bothered me the most with the book is probably a spoiler, so like I will leave it out. Just know that it has to do with like gay stereotypes. You can probably guess. Honestly. I guessed what this book was about like 10 seconds into it because I didn't know too much when I started it. And then as soon as it was just like da da da, I'm like, okay, I know exactly where this is going. And it went there, and it went there even worse than I thought it would. There wasn't a likable character. The main character sucked. His friend sucked. I mean, his wife was okay, I guess, but very background. I don't even know how, like, I thought that I'd have the most to say about the book that I disliked the most, but honestly, by the end of it, I was just so over it, I don't even have that much to say. It was just a bad stereotypes. It was bad stereotypes of gays in the 80s. Like, I'm sure you can guess based on the time period, like, exactly what the book is about. All the plot points that happen with that being brought up, and it's just like, it was so flat. I don't know how to talk about this book. It was just, it was bad. It was bad, but it is so pretty. Like, it is so pretty. Like, come on. That is false advertising right there. She knew what she was doing. I mean, she probably didn't pick the cover. They knew what they were doing. They wanted people to pick up that book because it was pretty and then be stuck with it. A good thing I'll say is it's short, so like I got through it really fast. But it's just like, don't serve me like gay men from the 80s and give me exactly what anyone would expect. Like, mix it up a bit. There was not a twist. There was nothing. It was just the flattest story you could think of for that time period about that subject matter. So, do not read. Thank you for sticking around with me through all my complaining, and I hope that you continue to stick around. I will see you soon. Bye.